this is. Let me see if I can get this lighting a little bit better. Okay, get this up. Okay, hi everybody. This is 1,170 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and I'm going on Facebook right now to make sure everything is working so I could tell you what I can. But I can't. Oh, I haven't even read my comments. Yes. Okay, so let's go on Facebook, make sure everything's okay. Thank you so much for coming on. It looks like I'm on. Okay, great, wonderful. Okay, so we've been making connections, more connections, and I want to tell you that 1,170 days, Richard didn't just go missing. Things happened. He pulled on a string, and at the end was a pot of wells. I mean, it's so big, it's so huge. And the last few days in politics, and I post up things, I should even post up more because the politics have a lot to do with what's going on right now. The protection of criminals in the very prominent roles that get government funding that are they're just up to no good. And they have all the appearance of benevolence, but they're not. They're absolutely criminals. And so this is the connections that we're making. And, you know, there so many people in 2015, 2016 thought that President Trump was part of that class. Maybe. I don't know. I just know that he knows how to build things. His financials, when I looked at him, when he came down that escalator, I looked at his financials and I went, oh, wowzer, this man knows how to build something. He knows how to do something. I think I'm going to support him because he actually knows how to do something that gives other people jobs, that progresses our country, that takes something that is in shambles. He took a Turnberry, Scotland, uh, that was, just not looked after for decades, and he bought it and he turned it around and he created this beautiful hotel resort with golf course, and made Turnberry once again a place, a destination that people would want to go to vacation and enjoy themselves. And what it did was create a lot of jobs in that area. And it had turned the land around and it turned the economy around in that area, made a lot of people's lives much better. And I know that from living in Ireland, that when you're out in a remote area like that and somebody comes in and actually cleans up the land and provides jobs, provides something, close to Drumroe, where I used to live, they were going to make a little resort area. Everybody was so excited, the restaurants, the towns nearby, because of the jobs, the improvement in the lives that hope that resort area would give them. And and of course everything supporting life would be needed. And so many other jobs and businesses were so happy. So he actually knew how to build something. And of course, being going to Korea, South Korea, seeing the Trump Towers there. I believe he has 5 there, Trump Towers. knowing that that is um, creating jobs and, uh, actually, it, look, I like star forts. I like these old stone buildings. I loved Ireland and all the old stone buildings. There's star forts all over the world. I love that. I love the big cathedrals. I love the pyramids, the ziggurats. I love these structures that we don't even know how to build anymore today. We can't build them today. I don't know how many cathedrals and churches and Santiago de Compostela, that whole area there. Of course, Copenhagen, of course, Berlin, of course, Paris, of course, cities all over the world that are star forts. Um, I love that. Now, Trump Towers is, okay, these high rises, they're not really my cup of tea as far as buildings go, but he's building something. He's building something. And, I like the resort of Turnberry, and Turnberry, of course, being Robert the Bruce's birthplace, and Robert the Bruce being the ancestor of Robert E. Lee, who, everyone knows who Robert E. Lee is. The and this whole connection with Trump's mother, with Robert the Bruce, and this old painting of Robert the Bruce that kind of looks like Trump, and all these rumors. It's fascinating. I love the old history. I love all of that, and so this politics is something that I've always paid attention to. Um, since I've been an adult, since I've, you know, well, I guess before then, even as a child, because of my mom being German and my Oma telling us things that happened during World War II and the devastation that occurred and all of this. So I've paid attention. And, when I saw Trump come down the escalator and everyone call him a racist, I was like, what? What is that? They must be afraid of this man that builds things, because our politicians don't build things. They are thieves. They legalize theft, right? They have the broken window fallacy. They like to break things. They like to go to war, break it all apart, and then they say, "Oh, and now we have to pay to rebuild it." And they have all these contractors that they're heavily invested in, and they make a mint. It's just it's their business plan is to break things apart. Sometimes breaking things apart that are very historical, which that's they don't care about that, or they care about it and they don't want us to see it. Um, which you could say, okay, that's conspiracy. I don't know. I believe in conspiracies because people conspire together. They've always conspired together to do things to thwart things and get into power and whatever, or to make these amazing business plans, um, and even evil ones, that they get into power and legalize their theft. Um, and so we've had, or they do it illegally because we haven't declared war, and yet they are paying for wars that we haven't even declared war on to fund these companies that make bombs to kill people, that make bombs to kill the land, to kill the animals, to poison, to destroy. And I'm not for that. I like builders. I like farmers. I like to make the world a better place, make it better than you found it. Um, these amazing gardens in Europe. Um, so when Trump came down, and I know I'm telling all this stuff that might be a little bit too much, but I want everyone to know my mindset, our mindset, because I'm the mother of Richard. His identity might have been stolen, it was stolen, and other people might claim to be his parent or his brother or his sister or whatever, but we know his true identity. We have his true legal identity. I'm his mother. And I remember Robert, when their birth mother passed away, I told Robert, because he was old enough, um, he was 8 years old at the time, and I sat him down and I said, I just wanted to let you know that, and I said her name, and she died. And he said to me, and I said, your mother died. And he said, what do you mean? You're sitting right here. That's what he said to me. And we adopted him when he was almost 8. Um, and this was like in a little bit broken language, but that's what he said to me. He goes, what do you mean? You're sitting right here. And that was a great lesson. Um, it's making me cry. Um, so all this stolen identity is part of this case, and the amount of evil surrounding this murder is huge. And so, of course, I'm keeping up with the politics. And I know that what's happening in Washington, D.C. is, if they can't do a budget, come on, uh, to govern your own house, to govern your own business, to govern your hobbies, your church, your whatever. You have to create a budget, right? Otherwise, you're never going to survive. For our so-called government not to be able to produce a budget and vote on it is suicidal. We're never going to survive that. And of course, we have the ramifications of it that are starting. And we have been living on, in 2008, when the housing bust came, they started the quantitative easing. And I don't know if people remember that, but they started this quantitative easing, which is just a fancy way of saying we're going to digitize a lot of money and put a lot of money in circulation. And you had this hockey stick of monies put out in circulation. And people that knew what was going on made a load of money because all of a sudden there was a lot of money in circulation, and they controlled inflation by the putting that money into the big black holes of debt, so they control the inflation. It's, if you're a fan of economics, you understand what I'm saying. But they were controlling it. Well, it only lasts for so long, and then it gets out of control. They can juggle it for so long, but then too many balls get into their juggling, too many plates get on their stick, and it starts falling apart. And so now, with the debt that we have because of the quantitative easing, because they bought it, the government bought their own debt, right? Um, we have this inflation now, and we have these high interest rates, which they should have always been high, to be honest with you. They should have never went low like that. That was like creating a fake economy. But and it's a moral hazard because it traps people into more debt than what they can have, and doesn't give them anything for their savings. So people were like, well, why should I save? I don't get anything for my savings. So I'm just going to go into debt because debt is cheap. debt is cheap. And so it was really a moral hazard. And I remember the what was going on. I'm going to tie all this together, and I hope you're staying with me. But in 2008 or 2005, when we started, when we bought our property in Ireland, they were just throwing money at you. They wanted to give us 400,000 euros, no questions, this cheap interest rate and everything. We're like, nope, no, 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 no. And then the crash, 2008, and people went underwater. I mean, the whole country was, oh my gosh, fell so quick. The young people had to leave. The pain and suffering, and that, Ireland still, and it was really the pigs. I don't know if people remember that. Portugal, Italy, or Ireland. You can do Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. They really suffered. Oh my gosh, people had bought these houses, and all of a sudden the value, and I know Florida went through that too. And we were so grateful that we bought this very derelict property, and we were just trying to build it, and didn't go into debt for it. And it was a huge lesson that we were very grateful that we didn't, grab the carrot on the stick. So, so all of a sudden, we have all this history. Richard, of course, is with us, learning it, hearing us talk about it, homeschooling about it. Ron Paul is in the scene, and he's talking about economics. It was a very big deal in homeschooling. And so here comes Trump. Here comes Trump down the escalator, and in 2015, and he says, I'm going to build the wall, and I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. And from 2005 to 2015, we had gotten a huge education in economics. And so when President Trump said that, we did not scream in our family, racism, racism. We didn't scream it. We went, oh my gosh, they're going to get after him because we have a deficit with Mexico, and he's going to make a deal. He is going to make a deal, and they will build the wall. This is, it was so crazy that God had prepared us to understand what President Trump, what then candidate Trump was saying. And this is after going through all of this hurt. And the hurt was the common man in Ireland. And of course, the common man in Florida. I don't know how the United States was dealing with all of this. We were in Europe, and Germany was benefiting off of the hurt of Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain. They were. There was this unevenness in the EU, and anyway, that's a long story. But so we saw the pain, and it wasn't the banks. The banks got the bailouts. The very entities that legalized theft with these loans and everything, and we're selling off these loans of the properties and making a mint, and it was so corrupt. They didn't have to pay. They didn't have to say, okay, we're going to cut your mortgages in half because we overvalued the property with these loans, and we sold them off at even more, or we sold them off tenfold, more than tenfold, right? We sold that loan off. So we were making a mint off of your loan, and we're still going to make you pay for it, even though we caused this this whole breakdown in the economy with the housing market. We caused it because we overvalued the property and gave you these cheap loans. Um, but oh well, we're going to get the bailout. You're going to have the taxes to pay the bailout, plus you're going to have to pay your mortgage, full mortgage of your overvalued property, right? And it was just a huge lesson for us that on the top, they really don't care about the country. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the future. They are just so self absorbed with their wealth. And because they have so many connections, they can get away with it. They got away with it. And, because they had the money and they would buy off the politicians. And we saw that too. And we see that here in this country. And this week was a little bit of pleasure because maybe it was a show. I don't know. But McCarthy getting called out because he can't give us a budget, right? We need a budget. And yet he can give Ukraine, make a deal behind the scenes with Ukraine for all these billions of dollars. But he can't give us a budget. He can't govern our country. He wants to govern the monies going to Ukraine. And to see, and I know I'm being very political right now, but um, to see it being shaken a bit is just a beautiful thing. It's just a beautiful thing because the trust in Washington, D.C., the trust in the Pentagon, the trust in the White House, just all of Washington, D.C., and the way they legalize theft all the time. They do not govern, okay? We are a republic. They break the laws all the time. And it's very, very clear because they don't declare war. They're supposed to declare war. They're supposed to give us a budget. They give us a $33 trillion debt. And so knowing this, not knowing how bad it was, but knowing this, not knowing that it was in the Department of Justice, that they had the lawyers in their back pocket as bad as they do. And I know it's not all of them, but it's enough. It's not all the politicians, but it's enough. It's enough for them to be emboldened. And to see Richard's case not release the evidence, not tell us the connections, and the connections coming out now 3 years later with Danae Katzen, with oh my gosh, y'all, uh, in regards to the CID, in regards to the emergency intake center, the children, in regards to this small group of people that definitely are so related to each other, including Boleyn and her family, and having the prominent positions of the law enforcement community. Okay, so they're controlling the law enforcement and having the position there at the VA to control benefits going to veterans and disabled veterans is, uh, those connections that were withheld from us, and Park University and the university, right? And to see these connections between all of these people and the CPS, don't forget, we're working on that one, and the CPS and the IG, Park University, the security on Fort Bliss, the CID, the command, um, and the Mexican connection, and having a common denominator of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and having the prosecutor in the El Paso law enforcement um, agencies, and more and more that are connected. Um, they're all connected to, and connected, very connected to Leilani Hart, who is a criminal, convicted criminal. And you're like, oh, yeah, now I understand why she's so emboldened to keep on committing crimes, why an arrest doesn't teach her a lesson, um, why fines or whatever. She's emboldened because she has these connections. And we were even told by one person that she was like, uh, the Samoan, what was it? Cartel. I'm going to sick the Samoan cartel on you. I think she threatened a person with that one. Um, so this is, definitely about law enforcement, and definitely about being able to outright commit crimes, belong to a criminal syndicate, right? A band of robbers. That's another word for it, a band of robbers. And for Richard to come in knowing the pain that he saw in his beloved Ireland, going on in his beloved United States. This is when you see people working at in these higher places to make so many people suffer. Ireland, in 2008, when everything fell apart, um, all the young people had to leave because there was no jobs for them. And families were separated. They had to go to Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia. Where did all they went to? A lot of went to Australia, New Zealand, because the United States had closed their doors to the Irish workers, and they needed jobs because they had these big mortgages and they had no jobs, and there was no bailout for them. So the separation of family, everything. So he saw that. He knew these young people were leaving to help out their families, go to these places far away to work. And you know, it is not a surprise for us uh, when it was revealed to us that he was a whistleblower. And this is the miscalculation of that CID and the Park University CID internship, and trying to bring Richard into their criminal fold, and thinking they could groom him into their criminal fold. And him, they just miscalculated because as a young man, he had already so many experiences. So many. And a faith on top of that. He had an answer for his faith, why the Ten Commandments were so important. He had an answer for that. And it wasn't like he never acted like he was better than anyone else or anything. That's not the point. The point is, look, I just went through um, many years of seeing people suffer because of organized crime, organized and deliberate crime. And now you're selling children? You're transporting children. Um, hey, Danae. Hey, Marlon. Hey, Tom. Hey, Anne. I thought you were for the security of people, not the enslavement or the um, trafficking of human beings. The same thing with the command structure. Hey, I thought you were, General, I thought you were for helping these migrants, not fomenting their rape, I'm sure drugs were getting in there. And so, Richard pulled on that string of that absolute uh, human trafficking, the predator nature of so many for this pedophilia. Of course, uh, with that comes the drug trafficking, with that comes the weapon smuggling, comes the, I should say, arms smuggling. Also, let's not forget about the ammunition. Those arms don't do any good unless you have ammunition. The ammunition smuggling, and of course, doing harm to our military, right? Um, Doing harm to our military, which is like hamstringing them, making them feel, they have too many worries because they have too many troubles of their own. So, I don't know what happened to him. Whatever. That's between you and Fort Bliss. No, no. We're supposed to be an army of one, and you're the army. You're the Air Force. You're the military. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to care. But and I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming Anthony Swafford. I'm not blaming the paralegal. I'm not blaming. I should definitely blame the unit, but and the um, chain of command. The chain of command, absolutely. But the problem is if you've been raped or you've witnessed raped or you are the rapist or you're getting drunk and you're partying with these young girls and you find out, oh gosh, she was just 14 years old, I didn't know that, wow. um, and you're in trouble for alcohol when you're only 18, and they take alcohol seriously, but they've given you an Article 15 for it because, they want to keep you in check, meaning they don't want you to be emboldened to actually um, oversee what they're doing. To say, wait a minute, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing over there? See, they want to keep the whistleblowers down. They don't want whistleblowers. So they manipulate, all this gender stuff. They don't care about that. That is just a sideshow to keep the military preoccupied with garbage instead of defending the Constitution, the land, the people, reaching their potentialities, being who they are meant to be. Um, it's just such a sideshow. And so, of course, when Richard comes in and he complains and they do a code red on him and they escalate the code red and they murder him, and then and everyone's like, oh my God, oh, what's happened with them? And then they do the smear campaign. So the people that don't really know what happened are hearing these smears and they're like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, let's not get near that one. um, you can just see how it all happened, but it's even bigger than that because they use millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to cover this up, to make sure it was covered. Why? Because the crimes behind it were so big. The connections, when you make the connections between everybody in this, and you have this and I'm just going to tell you. And this is just a heads up. But you have this common denominator of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because it's there. And if they want to preserve who they are or their good name or whatever their character, then they should come out and help right now because I'm telling you, there that is the common denominator, even with the prosecutor, and it goes on beyond that because it reaches into Nova Casa Grandes and also Colonial Juarez, which is like Romney land. All that is like Romney, Farnsworth. Remember the sign that we got, Farnsworth, Hatch. There's like 5 families, and so if you know something, this is it's going to be. I was always told because I went to Salt Lake City with my husband for a conference, for a PA conference, and I took the tour. Um, and I just spent time walking around Salt Lake City, which is amazing, amazing ancient city in my view because of the buildings and the stone cuttings, the mega buildings there, and it's just the stories behind them don't make sense to me. Um, and it's just something I've always been interested in. So, but it was very interesting to hear their pitch, and their pitch was patriotism. Patriotism. So, it's time to be patriotic because we have a lot that are associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that have not been patriotic. They have been um, they've been criminals. They've organized themselves as criminals, and they are responsible for what happened to Richard. Absolutely. And with the identity theft, I think that has a mix of wanting to get that social security number, um, or wanting to get the aid from the system of the United States. Another, legalized theft or illegal, but trying to make it legal theft. Um, and I hope that makes sense because the names that are going to come out of this will prove that, this had many facets um, of criminality, and it and that's what made it so organized because they were emboldened not to just do one crime, but to uh, grow years and years into um, and get those jobs. So who's in HRC to give them, to assign them those positions? You see, something HRC has some explaining to do too. If I was an investigator and I am an investigator, I've been made an investigator, but if I had some credentials, I definitely would ask HRC a lot of questions because this is all very deliberate in that area to have these kind of positions and to grant some of these people positions when I'm sure there were others that were better qualified, is just something that needs to be looked into because these people are very connected and they hold crucial positions in order to carry out and cover crime. So back to Trump. Um, this week, people are calling him to be Speaker of the House. And I heard today that he is going there on Tuesday to meet with the Republicans in a closed meeting uh, to offer his services as Speaker of the House. These are very exciting times to live in when you think about that, because I don't think that's ever happened before, right? I don't think that's ever happened, what's happening this last week. This is just amazing times. And I am praying that it happens. And why? Because we've been working 3 years for a case that should not be difficult. It should not be difficult for a general to tell us what happened to our son. Absolutely no way. And now, with the connections that we've made today, even with Danae, that directly link, oh my gosh. And I don't think I'm at liberty yet to say it publicly, but with these connections, you're like, wow, we need a a person like Trump with subpoena power. We need to know that someone is going to have our back, that when we put in a FOIA to HRC or to CPS or to the Department of Justice or to Miss Amy Shinati to get the uh, monies, and on and on. And to Judge Robert Shook, that as soon as we sent the open records request that absolutely should be answered, he was out of there. He was up and out. Um, where is he? Right? And when we started asking the JAG to help us with it, they were like, we're going to cut off all communications with you. Really? We're asking, where are the warrants for Richard? Where are the warrants for our home in Sarasota? What's the probable cause? What did Robert Schick? What what cases have been heard in trial or court, or we had this whole list, and then they just cut off. Um, but I think that's ending because we're getting the veteran support, we're getting the MP support, we're getting the FBI support, not the head honcho, but maybe. Um, but I'm just saying it would go so much quicker if we had somebody that had subpoena power, that was holding our agencies accountable, who knew uh, who was thwarting justice, and get them out of there, right? Get them out of there so that other people that want to carry out justice, that want to find a missing soldier, that want to give justice to a murdered soldier, that knows how to work with foreign countries like Trump. Trump knows how to work with Scotland. I mean, wow. If you can work with Scotland, that's pretty good. Uh, that is that's a bowl full of spaghetti. And also in South Korea, and also, I mean, all over the world. That kind of negotiating knowledge and capability is so important. And the want to build something, those inner city opportunity zones that he put in. And Catherine Austin Fitts was brilliant because when the Black Lives Matter groups and the Antifa groups, I believe it was the Antifa, um, when they were burning down the inner cities, it was a coordinated effort to burn those inner cities that were part of the Trump Opportunity Zones program. They didn't want those inner city individuals, citizens, to have small businesses and make a thriving inner city and have a chance. And so Catherine Austin Fitts alerted me to, well, our family, to the fact that it wasn't just any inner city that they were burning down, it was the opportunity zones. And she overlaid the maps. And it was just amazing, amazing to see that the politics is very organized, the crime is very organized, very deliberate on their attacks. And Leilani Hart has been very deliberate on her attacks. And that attack was on Find Richard Halliday, Richard Halliday's witness, Richard Halliday's whistleblower, Richard Halliday's uh, family. So, these groups are very deliberate in who they attack, what they want to thwart, what they want to destroy, and to intimidate, to harass when you have a history of harassment and be emboldened to do it, even though you've been arrested, you're a convicted criminal, is very telling that it is a criminal syndicate, an organized theft ring, right? And they don't want their gravy train to be disrupted. And part of their show is that they will, come, at the beginning they were all like, oh, so nice, so nice. Oh, we want to help you. We're praying for Richard. But, it's all just a show because behind the scenes, their claws are coming out, their fangs are coming out, and they are up to no good, right? They're up to no good. So that has been very, very clear in these 3 years. And so hang on tight. Um, it's very interesting times. We know what we're fighting for. We're fighting for Richard's justice for Richard. We're fighting for his remains. Um, we're fighting for his identity. For those that have stolen his identity, has used his identity, and stolen our family's identity. Because at this point, I think they stole our identity as well as Richard's. And that's, um, their way because they legalize their theft. Okay. They, even though it's illegal what they're doing, they try to do this lawfare, right? And that's why this prosecutor, their legal team that they have, I mean, look, they have the DES, they have Ann Ogle. Ann Ogle, I can't believe that she got to stay in her job as long as she did when children were being so hurt, so much failure, and allowed to have multiple jobs. It's okay to have multiple jobs if you're good at them, if you do a good job. But if you're not focused on them or you have some other intention, very clearly it seems like Ann Ogle had a different intention, and so did Thomas Kane, because Fort Bliss was not safe. It had a breach in security. He was giving voluntarily, he was giving young party girls access during COVID to Fort Bliss to go to parties. Um, if that's not raising some flags, and then I know that Sammy went went on base and he was filming the arms room and he was filming the barracks and that. And the next thing he knew, he was banned. He was banned from Fort Bliss, and his ban was very different from our key witness ban because Sammy got notification because he told me he was notified that he was banned, um, and that he had to go and try to make his case. So he was given that um, due process, whereas our key witness, that witnessed Leilani Hart interfering with our case, witnessed Tavita Nusa interfering with our case, tampering with Richard's file, with other files. Who knows how many people they were stealing identities from? And, that's just me alleging, and, manipulating and all of that. And being in connection with James Hart of IDES, Pablo, um, and her even saying that they were messing with people's identities and social security numbers, and also training and coaching um, veterans into how to get their disability benefits. So it is so organized, but it's illegal. It's criminal, and it's theft. And because they have people in their corners, in the higher places, and there's family connections, y'all. These are family connections. These are, LDS connections. I mean, that's a huge connection there, and other things, business connections. But these are connected people, individuals. And because Richard wanted to get into law enforcement, and the law enforcement community is another common denominator with these people, right? Um, he ended up in that circle. And he was then code redded because he did not want to become them. That is very clear. And we have hard evidence, meaning he's a yellow Interpol, right? He's not a red Interpol. We have confirmation now from the federal criminal database that he has no record at all, right? So these people have records. Um, they have records. Leilani has a long record, convicted criminal record. And that's why stealing identities is so important for them. Because in order to get their loans, in order to continue doing their things, doing their crime legally, they have to offer a clean record. And so that's why this whole identity theft has become second nature to them. It's very important for them to switch around the identities, even in their own family. So they don't, it's so unbelievable, but there it is. There we have it. We've uncovered it. And in order to get these loans, or to buy a car, to get their license, or to get their badges, to get their badges. Leilani Hart was trying to get a badge. And what did she complain about when it came to our key witness? Is that, he was like, I'm not giving you a badge. I'm not giving you a badge. And she wanted a badge. She wanted a law enforcement badge because she wanted access. She wanted access to people's files. She wanted access to people's identities. She wanted access to do her crime. To do her crime. And I don't know if it has to do with the migrants. My suspicion is it has everything to do with the migrants there at the emergency intake center, getting more identities and benefits off of these poor people coming over. Maybe some of them aren't poor. Maybe some of them are criminal. Who knows? Who knows? Because we didn't vet them. We haven't vetted them. It's all broken. The whole system's broken. And so then you look back up to Washington D.C. and you go, well, what have you been doing? We're $33 trillion in debt. What have you been doing? Do we get anything for our money? Do we get anything for all that debt? I mean, that's just the debt part. We're not talking about what we've actually, the spending part. The debt is over and above what they were spending. So we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. We have, the last time I looked, we're like $220 trillion in debt for unfunded liabilities. Okay? For unfunded liabilities. Now, that might blow your brain. But my point is, and I'm going to simplify it because that is like such extreme amount of money. We are going to see very interesting times. Hold on to your seat and be prepared because there is no getting out of this anymore. Getting out of this would be to get through it morally, right? To get through it morally, to not sell your soul. Because there's a time that you have to pay the piper. And to get through it, loving humanity, when you know that they've been stumbling blocks in front of them and not one of us is good, not one, right? How are we going to get through this financially, morally, deal with the crime, deal with how to vet these people that have come over, right? 85,000 minors unaccounted for. I think some of them have been murdered. Okay. I think a lot of them have been murdered. I think there's a chance that was one of the things that Richard was reporting on. Because Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe was shaking in his boots with the dog, with the canine. They had to stage that because I think there's too many bodies to be found like Gregory Morales. And I only say that because of the level of callousness and criminality and shallowness and shaking and crying and PTSD and suicides that it's just not normal unless things are just that bad. And you have the DES, the chief of security, in charge of all the passes, in charge of all the gates, giving passes out underneath these generals to young girl party girls that we have witnesses who saw them in their party outfits, um, coming in during COVID, right? And don't tell me that drugs weren't involved, that alcohol wasn't involved, that rape wasn't involved, that um, prostitution wasn't involved, that, don't tell me that they take underage drinking seriously. Okay? They don't. Because you had the chief of security of Fort Bliss issuing those passes under the suggestion or the order of Major General Clem Coward. Was he a Major General? Yeah, Major General White. I think he was a 2-star general. They were doing that. They were doing that. So they were setting up our soldiers, our volunteer sons and daughters. They were setting them up for no good. Not discipline, you know. And I'm not a square person. I like to have fun, but I have morals. I have morals. And so, to see all of that going on, I absolutely believe there's a lot of dead bodies. And I believe they were very up to no good with the emergency intake center. And we have confessions of that, right? We have news articles about that. We have it recorded that it was a pretty bad place. So getting back to Trump, he came out day one. I'm going to build a wall. He saw the problem. He saw the problem, and that um, the people coming over the border were used in multifaceted ways, part of a business plan in many ways, um, that were very destructive to our country. And it had nothing to do with race. So, and he was bashed on that. I mean, he's been bashed since. And this whole thing with Russia, anyway, Russia has its own problems. Russia has huge problems. Huge. Nobody, and the reason why I know, and this is where God is in total control, is because my parents were there for 9 years working at the American Embassy. They were there and saw them as communists, and in their very derelict state at the end of their communism, very derelict, right? And then they were there for the massive inflation, massive, the fall of the ruble, the prices going through the roof, the oligarchs coming in with their organized crime. My parents were there. They saw it. They experienced that whole thing. And then the settling down of, trying to get law and order into that country. And it's a vast, vast country. And they have so much that they have to do to get their country together. And they still have so many problems. So it's like, for Americans to be hoodwinked by our leadership that absolutely are only telling half the story, to make us afraid of Russia, who, you know, they're still trying to tie their shoes. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they're still recovering, and um, and it's a criminal problem, right? And then this whole thing with Ukraine that they got trapped into, that's a long story too. But, and I'm not making excuses for Russia, but I am saying that our leadership was jumping through the hoops to help Ukraine, to send them billions and billions of dollars. And yet they're not willing to put up a wall on our border. They're not willing to at least vet the people coming over. They're not willing to address the crime against the minors that are coming over, being used and abused and put in these emergency intake centers. They're not willing to do that. Their focus is somehow in this faraway country that has its own problems, and they're not willing to address a whistleblower that gets code redded right there on the border of El Paso and Mexico, Juarez, Mexico, that there are very good evidence that the FBI is hiding the remains of a United States soldier. And they're not even covering that in the news. I mean, Nadal Bayim's face should be everywhere with Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugallo's face. Should be everywhere. How do you know this? There should be this big investigation. Especially since the State Department twice now has confirmed that Richard's remains were found in Mexico. So, it's so back to Trump. He's going to go in on Tuesday to that meeting and offer his service. And I hope that you call your congressman or congresswoman and you offer your support to that. Because what's the alternative? What's the alternative? The status quo has had decades to get our country right. And all they are is a criminal syndicate or covering up. And I'm not saying all, but you have enough of them that the rest of them have very little opportunity to get it right. So, or they get retaliated against. And so I don't know if it's the right, I'm not saying I'm 100% on this, but $33 trillion in debt and 220, and I think it's more now, probably closer to 300 trillion with inflation and all that stuff, of unfunded liabilities. What do we have to lose? I think subpoena power in the hands of President Trump would be a marvelous risk, a wonderful risk, because he has been through so much, and he's a builder. He has so much to lose. They're attacking his businesses around the world. And his business is being able to travel and enjoy, go play golf, go to the hotels, go to the towers, do your business, rent to people. His business is to have a vibrant economy. If there's no vibrant economy, then he goes under. So I don't think this is a risky risk. I think it's pretty smart. And how will that help Richard's case? Um, I think that it will indict a lot of generals because without the Pentagon and the Pentagon, right, failing audits after audits after audits, okay, they're failing audits after for trillions of dollars. And who are they going after? Trump for not valuing his property or whatever. When he's paying off his debt, he has a budget and he's paying it off. And if you haven't seen that, you need to go and look at his financials. And his tax papers got leaked. They couldn't get him on any of that because they're so on the up and up. Go look at them. And they are amazing. And I've even shared them. Matter of fact, I'll go and find them and share them again. And this is from 2015 when he came in. And, he knows how to build something. He knows how to create vibrant jobs for people. So, and he'll go under if the economy goes under. So I think it's a good risk. And I think that he can work with the AGs like AG Ken Paxton, who is very important for Richard's case because he could get Bill Hicks to do what he's supposed to do. That's give us the monies and call him out when he's like saying, well, I have a gag order, so I can't do that. Well, what a lame excuse, because he goes on every week and talk about exactly what we're asking for. And he says he has a gag order. It's just ridiculous. But, so to get the law enforcement back on track, you need someone that has subpoena power that can expose the criminality. And so it's a risk, but I think it's a very smart risk. I think it's a lot less riskier than going along with McConnell or with whoever the Democrat leaders are right now. I mean, they're much riskier because they have a proven record to do us harm and to do no good. So I'm really going to stump for Trump. I'm going to stump for Trump. And, I don't know how I can hurt this case. We have a concerted group of people, of individuals, that try to hurt this case every single day. So I don't know how I can hurt this case by stumping for Trump in order to try to get justice for my son. And also for our country. And the Pentagon needs to be held accountable for what they've done. The CID, Ms. Torres, the Representative Torres, she's the one that got the CID all reorganized after Vanessa Guillen. And what did she do? What does she do? They're still investigating themselves. They're still in cover-up mode. So we need definitely someone that can build something and that has a lot to lose if the criminal uh, monopolies keep on growing, you know, it's like I want to get some wood paneling. I have one choice, really: Home Depot, Lowe's. It's one choice. It's not two choices. What? Why is that? We need to make things. We need to build things. Um, all these warfighter manufacturers that make bombs and all kinds of warfighter um, weapons and everything, they need to learn something else. I mean, they don't want it because for their tanks and their Humvees and all that, they get millions and billions of dollars, right? It's very lucrative. Um, but I'm tired of that. We don't have the threat. The threats are them, are their business plans. That's what's threatening because then they want continuous war and they want our volunteer sons and daughters to pay the price with their legs and arms and with their lives. And I'm telling you, this has all come out. I knew it a little bit. Oh my gosh, we have a contract problem. But with Richard's case, oh my gosh, it just screams. It just screams that we've lost our way. We've lost our focus. And those companies, they need to start making air conditioners, wash machine, dryers. Let's start making something in this country that can do something good. Um, make a flying car, whatever, something that we can all use. Uh, hovering car, I don't know. Do something besides making something that kills people and destroys land and animals. You know. Um, anyway, that's my opinion, and I think that is what's going to help get justice for Richard. The big news, really, it has to do with Danae and her family and the connections inside this group. Danae was not just some person that went on a date with a soldier, um, and when you have and I misspelled Holquin wrong. I put a Q there. It's a G. And these people have all these different jobs, and the IG absolutely should be in communication with us. Park University absolutely should be in communication with us. CID should absolutely be in communication with us. They should absolutely be doing an investigation in Richard's case. Um, and they should absolutely be with the media, telling what's going on with Richard and CPS, what was going on there in his CID complaints, what was going on there with the emergency intake center, how is this all related with the CID, how the CID is absolutely, that group is absolutely responsible for Richard's code red with his unit. Absolutely. And that's why there was such a big cover up. A big cover up. So, okay. Can't a civilian file subpoenas? Oh, yeah, but the Speaker of the House, wow, that would be something. Uh, I'll put out a list of what could be done. It could be just really, really amazing because right now the Department of Justice, remember that we filed for their help and they turned us down. Okay? And we didn't know that they turned us down um, before the likes of like Corinne Adeline was laughing at us because of it. Who in there, who in the world is such a person that would laugh at a family that is missing their son? This is early on. This is very early on when we were still in El Paso, right? For the Department of Justice not to help us. I mean, that is the level of callousness, cruelty, heartlessness, involvement in the code red of our son. And so we were just like, what? What? Something is not right. And that's why we kept saying something's very stinky. And we have a pretty good idea now. So that's why we're wanting to make these, what do you call them? Not criminal complaints, but file criminal charges. We want to file criminal charges. And that's happening. That's happening because it's just that criminal. But if you file them and no, and they have their buddy at the other end, just like Richard filed with CPS, and the CPS person was part of the criminal cabal, right? Tampering with Richard's complaint, just like IG. Just like IG. I mean, we have information that Chris Martin is totally affiliated with IG. So if you put in complaints and the person is working against you, how are you going to move forward? I mean, we have our FOIAs. They are obligated by law to give us the answers. And so for a long time we were like, why aren't they following the law? Why aren't they following the law? Well, now we know why. So our system has broken down, and it's been very, it's, you just have to be patient and keep working and working. And I think what I've gotten back, and the feedback that I've gotten, is that we've had victory over the smear campaign against Richard. Everyone knows Richard is a whistleblower. Everyone knows that he was code redded now, that he was murdered, that the CID are absolutely implicated in all of this, in tampering and obstruction of justice and denying us due process and hiding and hiding and hiding. They know that now. They absolutely know that now. So that's a victory. But we need to get legal. We need to get justice. And so that's, and get his remains. Get his remains, get justice, and hold those accountable. The knocks on the door need to come. So there's connections with other cases in this, and that will hopefully give us strength into getting that accountability. But we've been with the AG of the United States. He knows all about this case. Okay, I guarantee you that. We've been writing all kinds of letters. The IG, all over this. We even got confirmation they're looking into this. We know Samoa's looking into Leilani Hart. We know that. So we're getting this institutional support. But we need enough of it in order to get the charges recognized and to get accountability. That's to make really something happen. And yeah, so that's where we're at. Thank you so much. And a lot of people have been caught into this. So please pray for them. I can't even imagine, if you have like half of a moral backbone and you've been caught up into this because of your need to pay your mortgage or the debt or the school for your kids or whatever, um, or pressure from family and spouse and all that, and you're caught up in this, um, I definitely understand. It's no excuse. It's heartbreaking, the stumbling blocks, the moral hazard, right? It pulls people in when they normally wouldn't be pulled in. It's like a tornado that's just sucking them in to this kind of culture. And so we need to stop it before it hurts so many other people and sucks in more people. And that's why those people that know details, that have half of a moral backbone, need to come out and say something now. And of course, you know, the accountability is going to be there. But but you'll be a hero. You'll be a hero. There's just I think the time has come because we've all understand the predicament that this economy, that this culture has put us in, and we just need to fess up to stop it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but all right, everyone. Thank you so much, and I will be back tomorrow. I think of Leilani Hart's um, criminal complaint every day, and I'm just praying it's not true. But I think it's true because she wrote it over and over and over again. And our culture is just that bad. It's just so full of pedophiles and so much incest and so much child pornography and illegal weapons and threats and discourse. Yeah. Um, and I know she's lied about other things. But yeah, we've got to stop this. We got to get to the bottom of it anyway. All right. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye bye.